The stars burned cold above the dying world. Admiral Kira Vance stood at the observation deck of the orbital station and watched the planet below turn to glass. The Valkyrie bombardment ships hung in the sky like metal gods, pouring fire onto the surface. Cities that had stood for 200 years vanished in seconds. Forests that humans had planted with their own hands became ash and memory. New Eden was dying, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. "Admiral," a young officer said behind her. His voice shook. "The evacuation ships. They didn't make it." The Valkyrie intercepted them at the jump point. Kira did not turn around. She kept her eyes on the burning world. Somewhere down there, in a small house near the Eastern Sea, her daughter had lived. Her husband had worked in the gardens. Her grandson had taken his first steps just 3 months ago. They were all gone now. Like everyone else. "How many?" she asked. Her voice was calm. Too calm. 12 million civilians, Admiral. The entire colony. 12 million. Added to the billions already dead. The Valkyrie and their allies in the Galactic Confederation had been very thorough. In 3 years of war, they had destroyed 47 human worlds. They called it purification. They said humans were too dangerous to live among the stars. They said Deathworlders had no place in civilized space. So they decided to remove humans from the universe. Entirely. Kira finally turned away from the window. The young officer saw her face and took a step back. There was something in her eyes that frightened him. Not anger, not grief. Something older and darker than both. "Send a message to Earth Command," she said. "Tell them I accept the mission." 3 weeks later, Kira stood in a secret shipyard hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Mars. The ship before her was unlike anything the human fleet had ever built. It was not beautiful. It was not elegant. It was a weapon given form, a machine designed for one purpose and one purpose only. They called it the Prometheus. "She's ready, Admiral," said Chief Engineer Marcos. He was an old man with burn scars on his hands from a lifetime of working with plasma reactors. "Fastest ship we've ever made. Strongest armor. Biggest guns. And a few surprises the Confederation has never seen." "Crew?" Kira asked. 300 volunteers. All of them lost someone. All of them know this is a one-way trip. Marcos paused. "Are you sure about this, Admiral?" "The odds of reaching Aetheris are almost zero." "Almost zero is not zero," Kira said. "And even if we fail, we'll make them bleed. We'll make them remember." She walked up the ramp into the ship. Inside, the crew waited for her. They stood in rows along the main corridor, men and women from every corner of human space. Their faces were hard. Their eyes were empty. They had all lost everything. Family, friends, homes, hope. The Confederation had taken it all, but they still had their rage. And that was enough. Kira stood before them and spoke. She did not give a long speech. She did not promise glory or victory. She simply told them the truth. "The Galactic Confederation believes we are finished," she said. "They think they have broken us. They sit in their great citadel at Aetheris and celebrate the death of humanity. 12 species voted to wipe us from existence. 12 species watched our children burn and called it justice." She paused. The silence was absolute. "We are going to show them what justice really means. We are going to fly into the heart of their empire. We are going to find their leaders, their commanders, their high councils. And we are going to teach them something they have forgotten." Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire ship. "Humans do not go quietly into the dark. We fight. We survive. We endure. They call our homeworld a death world because everything on it tries to kill us. The gravity crushes. The predators hunt. The weather destroys. And still we rose. Still we conquered. Still we reached the stars. She looked at each face, seeing the fire that burned behind their eyes. They are not facing a broken species. They are facing 300 years of human fury. They are facing every mother who lost her child, every father who watched his world burn, every survivor who has nothing left but the need for vengeance. They wanted to see what Deathworlders really are. She smiled, and there was no warmth in it. Let us show them. The Prometheus launched 2 days later. It slipped past the Confederation blockade like a ghost, using new stealth technology that the aliens had never encountered. The crew worked in shifts, preparing weapons, running simulations, and planning for every possible scenario. Kira spent her nights in her quarters, studying the enemy. She learned everything about the Volcari, the tall, gray-skinned species that led the war against humanity. She studied the Selenari, the ancient diplomats who had convinced the Confederation that humans were too dangerous to live. She memorized the names and faces of every member of the Supreme Command. They had made this personal. She would make it personal too. On the 5th day of the journey, they received a transmission from Earth Command. It was short and simple. The fleet is ready. Godspeed, Prometheus. Make them look at you. Kira read the message 3 times. She understood what it meant. The Prometheus was not meant to win. It was meant to distract. While the Confederation focused on one small ship flying toward their heart, the real attack would come from somewhere else. That it did not matter. She had accepted this mission, knowing she would not return. Every member of her crew had made the same choice. They were already dead. They had died with their families, their friends, their worlds. Now they were simply going to take as many enemies with them as possible. She walked to the bridge and sat in the command chair. The stars stretched before her, cold and infinite. Somewhere ahead, the citadel of Aetherus waited. The Supreme Command sat in their comfortable chambers, drinking victory wine and dividing up human space. Among themselves, they did not know what was coming for them, but they would learn. All hands, Kira said into the ship-wide com. This is the Admiral. We have crossed into Confederation space. From this moment on, we are at war. Anyone who stands in our way will be destroyed. Any ship that tries to stop us will burn. We will not negotiate. We will not surrender. We will not stop. She leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. We are the Prometheus, and we carry the fire that will burn their empire to ash. The ship flew on, alone against the galaxy, and deep in the heart of Confederation space. The first patrol ships began to notice something strange on their sensors. Something was coming. Something that would not stop. Something human. Commander Thelvarus of the Volcari Imperial Intelligence sat in her office and stared at the reports on her screen. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones, in the cold dread that crept up her spine every time she looked at the data. Ships were disappearing. It had started small. A patrol vessel near the border failed to report in. Then, a supply convoy vanished without a trace. Then a listening station went silent. One by one, pieces of the Confederation's vast network were going dark. At first, the High Command dismissed her concerns. Ships broke down. Communications failed. Crews made mistakes. These things happened. But Thelvarus had spent 40 years studying patterns, and she knew that this was no accident. She pulled up a star map and marked every disappearance with a red dot. Then she connected the dots with a line. Her blood went cold. The line was perfectly straight. It pointed directly at Aetherus. By the ancient stars, she whispered. They're coming. She immediately sent a message to the High Admiral, explaining her discovery. His response came within the hour. One ship, he wrote back. You are worried about one ship? The humans are beaten. Their fleet is scattered. Their worlds are ash. This is nothing but a desperate gesture, a dying animal lashing out before the end. We will send a patrol to intercept it. Stop wasting my time with your paranoia. Thelvarus read the message 3 times. Then she deleted it and began her own investigation. The High Admiral was a fool. He had never fought humans directly. He did not understand what they were capable of. She did. Aboard the Prometheus, the crew moved with quiet purpose. They had been traveling for 2 weeks now, and they had already left a trail of destruction behind them. 3 patrol ships destroyed. 2 supply convoys captured and stripped for resources. 1 listening station taken apart piece by piece. Admiral Vance stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display. The ship's AI, a system called Argus, highlighted their current position and projected course. "We have been detected," Argus reported. Its voice was calm and mechanical. "Confederation forces are mobilizing to intercept. Current estimate: 200 warships will reach our position within 72 hours. 200, Kira said softly. They're taking us seriously now. Recommendation: alter course to avoid engagement. Current probability of surviving direct combat with 200 warships is less than 1%. What is the probability of reaching Aetheris if we go around them? 0%. The detour would add 16 days to our journey. Confederation reinforcements would arrive before we could reach the target." Kira nodded slowly. "Then we go through them." "Admiral, that course of action is not logical. The mathematics clearly show." "I know what the mathematics show, Argus." "But you're forgetting something." She turned to look at the AIS main sensor. "We're not here to survive. We're here to make them afraid. We're here to show them that no matter how many ships they send, no matter how hard they try to stop us, humans will keep coming." She turned back to the display. "Set course for the Shroud Nebula. We'll meet them there." The crew did not question her orders. They had stopped questioning long ago. Each of them carried their own weight of grief, their own burning need for revenge. They worked their stations with mechanical precision, checking weapons, reinforcing armor, preparing for the battle ahead. In the medical bay, Dr. Sarah Chen worked on a new stimulant compound. It would allow the crew to fight through injuries that would normally kill them. The side effects were severe. Long-term use would destroy their nervous systems, but there would be no long-term. They all knew that. In the weapons bay, Sergeant Major Tom Rodriguez tested the boarding pods. If the Prometheus got close enough to enemy ships, small teams would launch themselves across the void and tear through the enemy from within. It was insane. It was suicide. It was exactly the kind of thing humans were good at. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Marcos pushed the reactors beyond their safety limits. The ship hummed with barely contained power, energy that could tear it apart at any moment. He did not care. He had lost his wife and 3 children on New Eden. He would ride this ship into hell itself if it meant taking some aliens with him. And on the bridge, Kira Vance waited. She thought about her daughter. Maria had been 26 years old, with her mother's dark hair and her father's gentle smile. She had been a teacher, working with the children of New Eden's first generation. She had believed in peace and diplomacy, in finding common ground with other species. The Volcari had burned her alive from orbit. Kira closed her eyes and let the memory wash over her. The pain was still there, sharp and bright, but it no longer controlled her. She had moved beyond grief into something colder, something harder. Something that would not stop until the job was done. "Argus," she said. "Calculate the optimal attack pattern for engaging 200 ships with a single vessel." "There is no optimal pattern, Admiral. The engagement cannot be won. I didn't ask if it could be won. I asked for the pattern that would cause maximum damage before we are destroyed." The AI was silent for a long moment. Then it began displaying tactical options on the screen. Attack angles, weapon loadouts, ramming trajectories. Ways to turn one ship into a weapon that could tear through an entire fleet. Kira studied each option carefully. She made notes. She asked questions. She refined the plan until it was as perfect as it could be. Meanwhile, in Confederation space, Commander Thelvarus continued her investigation. She interviewed survivors from the destroyed patrol ships. Most of them were too traumatized to speak clearly, but she pieced together a picture of what had happened. The human ship had appeared out of nowhere, striking without warning. It had used weapons the Confederation had never seen before, tactics that made no sense. When the crew of one patrol ship had tried to surrender, the humans had ignored their signals and kept firing. No mercy, no hesitation, no negotiation. One survivor, a young communications officer, described the final moments of his ship. "They boarded us," he said, his voice shaking. "They came through the hull in metal pods. We thought we could fight them off. We had 3 times their numbers." He stopped, his eyes distant. "They killed everyone. They moved so fast. They didn't stop even when we shot them. One of them took 4 plasma rounds to the chest and still kept fighting. He killed 6 of our soldiers before he finally fell. And even then, even dying, he pulled out a grenade and took 3 more with him." Thelvarus felt a chill run through her body. This was what the High Command did not understand. Humans were not like other species. They came from a world of constant death, a planet so dangerous that most species could not survive there for an hour. They had evolved to ignore pain, to push through injuries, to fight until their hearts stopped beating. And now the Confederation had given them a reason to use every bit of that terrible strength. She sent another message to the High Admiral. 200 ships may not be enough. The human ship is not behaving like a normal vessel. It is behaving like a weapon that does not care if it survives. We need to evacuate Aetheris. We need to prepare for the possibility that it will reach us." The response came quickly. "Your concerns are noted and dismissed. The Citadel is impregnable. No single ship, no matter how determined, can threaten us. Stop spreading fear and trust in the wisdom of your superiors." Thelvarus read the message and knew that the High Admiral would never listen. He was too proud, too confident in the power of the Confederation. He had seen the human worlds burn and believed that the war was already won. He did not understand that the humans had nothing left to lose, and that made them more dangerous than any enemy the galaxy had ever faced. In the cold depths of space, the Prometheus flew on, its crew prepared for battle, its weapons charged with deadly energy. And at its heart, Admiral Kira Vance sat in silence, thinking about the dead and planning for the revenge that was still to come. The Shroud Nebula waited ahead, a cloud of gas and dust where sensors could not see clearly. It was the perfect place for an ambush, the perfect place for a last stand, the perfect place to show the galaxy what humanity was truly made of. The wolf was running toward the heart of the enemy, and it had no intention of stopping. The Shroud Nebula was a graveyard of ancient stars. Billions of years ago, a cluster of suns had died here, their death explosions mixing together to create a cloud of gas and radiation that stretched across 3 light years. Navigation was difficult. Sensors were unreliable. Ships that entered the Shroud often never came out. It was the perfect place for a trap. Fleet. Commander Vertash stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment, and watched his forces spread out across the nebula's edge. 200 warships of the Confederation, the finest vessels of 12 different species, all gathered to destroy one human ship. It should have been simple. The mathematics were clear. 200 against 1. Even if the humans were as dangerous as the report suggested, they could not possibly survive. But Vertash felt uneasy. He had read Commander Thelvarus' reports. He had seen the footage from the destroyed patrol ships. And he had noticed something that troubled him deeply. The humans were not trying to run. "All ships report ready, Commander," his tactical officer announced. "The human vessel has entered the nebula. We have them surrounded." "Hold position," Vortash ordered. "Let them come to us." In this radiation, their sensors are as blind as ours. We have the advantage of numbers. He watched the tactical display, waiting for the first sign of the enemy. The nebula swirled with colors on his screen, clouds of gas that hid everything within them. Somewhere in there, a single ship carried 300 humans toward their certain death. Why didn't they turn back? Why didn't they try to escape? What were they planning? The answer came 60 seconds later. The Prometheus burst from a cloud of gas, less than 2 kilometers from the Eternal Judgment. It came in at full speed, weapons firing, shields blazing with energy. Vortash had no time to give orders. He barely had time to react before the human ship slammed into his formation. The first 3 ships died instantly. The Prometheus rammed the lead destroyer, its reinforced bow cutting through the alien vessel like a knife through water. Debris exploded in all directions, creating a field of chaos that disrupted the other ship's firing solutions. Then the human ship was through, twisting impossibly fast, firing in all directions. Its weapons were like nothing Vortash had ever seen. Plasma bolts that punched through shields. Missiles that split into dozens of smaller projectiles. Beams of focused energy that cut through armor like it was paper. "All ships, engage!" Vortash screamed. "Destroy that thing!" The fleet responded. 200 ships opened fire on a single target. The space around the Prometheus filled with weapons fire, a storm of destruction that should have vaporized anything in its path. The human ship kept coming. It took hits that would have destroyed any normal vessel. Its armor melted and reformed. Its shields collapsed and came back online. Fires burned across its hull, and the humans simply vented the atmosphere to kill the flames. They did not slow down. They did not retreat. They fought like demons. Aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Vance gripped her command chair as the ship shook from another impact. Alarms screamed throughout the bridge. Damage reports flooded in from every section. "Hull breach on Deck 4. Sealing now. Port weapons array offline. Switching to backup. Reactor 2 is critical. Reducing power output." Kira listened to it all, processing the information, making decisions in fractions of a second. The ship was dying around her. A third of her crew was already dead. But they had done what she needed them to do. They had gotten inside the enemy formation. "Argus, target the command ships," she ordered. "All weapons, continuous fire. Boarding teams, prepare to launch." "Admiral, launching boarding teams in this environment will result in 90% casualties. They know that. Launch them anyway." Across the ship, soldiers in heavy armor climbed into small pods that would carry them across the void. They knew they were going to die. Most of them would never reach the enemy ships. Those who did would be outnumbered and outgunned. They went anyway. Sergeant Major Rodriguez was in the first wave. His pod shot through space, dodging weapons fire and debris, spiraling toward a Valkyrie cruiser. He could see the alien ship growing larger in his viewport, its weapons trying to track him, its point defense systems filling the space around it with fire. His pod was hit twice. The first impact shattered his navigation systems. The second killed the soldier next to him. But the pod kept going, momentum carrying it forward, even as it began to break apart, that it hit the cruiser's hull at full speed. Rodriguez survived the impact through pure luck and human stubbornness. He pulled himself from the wreckage, drew his weapon, and began cutting through the alien ship's armor. 10 seconds later, he was inside. The Valkyrie crew was waiting for him, armed and ready. There were 20 of them. Rodriguez smiled. 5 minutes later, he was the only one still alive. This scene repeated across the battlefield. Human soldiers launched themselves at enemy ships, knowing they would die, and taking as many aliens with them as possible. They fought in corridors filled with fire. They fought in zero gravity, in vacuum, in environments that would kill any other species. They fought, and they died, and they kept fighting. On the Eternal Judgment, Vertash watched his fleet tear itself apart, trying to destroy one ship. The Prometheus was still there, burning, broken, but still firing. Its movements made no tactical sense. It seemed to predict where his ships would be, striking at their weakest points. Then he realized the truth. The humans were not trying to win. They were trying to cause as much damage as possible before they died. Every move, every attack, every sacrifice was calculated to hurt the fleet. They did not care about survival, and that made them more dangerous than any enemy he had ever faced. "All ships fall back," he ordered. "Reform the fleet. We need distance." It was too late. The Prometheus was already among them, too close for the larger ships to target effectively. The humans had turned the Confederation's numerical advantage into a weakness. The fleet could not fire without hitting each other. The battle lasted 4 hours. By the end, 53 Confederation ships were destroyed. 84 more were so badly damaged they would never fly again. The survivors retreated, leaving the Shroud Nebula to the fires and the dead. And in the center of it all, the Prometheus still flew. It was barely a ship anymore. Whole sections were open to space. Its engines flickered with failing power. Half its weapons were offline. Of the 300 crew members who had started the journey, only 97 remained. But it was still moving, still heading toward Aetheris. Admiral Vance sat in what remained of her bridge, watching the enemy fleet disappear into the distance. She was wounded, bleeding from a dozen cuts, her left arm broken in 2 places. It did not matter. Nothing mattered except the mission. "Argus," she said quietly. "Status report. The ship has sustained critical damage. Repair is not possible with current resources. Estimated survival time, 47 hours. Probability of reaching Aetheris, 3.7%. Kira nodded slowly. "Better odds than before. Continue on course," she ordered. "And send a message to Fleet Commander Vertash." "What message, Admiral?" She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. She thought about her daughter, about her husband, about the billions of humans who would never see another sunrise. She thought about the revenge that was still waiting at the end of this journey. Then she smiled. "Tell him, we're still coming." The message was received across the Confederation in hours. The story of the Battle of the Shroud Nebula spread like wildfire. One human ship had faced 200 of the fleet's finest vessels and walked away. One ship, crewed by Deathworlders who refused to die, who fought through wounds that would kill any other species, who came back from destruction again and again. Fear began to spread. Commander Thelvarus received the news in her office at Aetheris. She read the battle reports. She watched the footage. And she understood, finally, what the humans had done. They had proven that they could not be stopped, not by numbers, not by firepower, not by the combined might of the Galactic Confederation. The humans would keep coming, keep fighting, keep dying and killing until there was nothing left of either side. She sent one final message to the High Admiral. It contained only 3 words. "We made monsters." But by then, it was already too late. The Prometheus was still coming, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it. The citadel of Aetheris was the heart of the Galactic Confederation. It hung in space like a jewel, a massive station built from the combined technology of 1,000 worlds. Its shields could withstand the death of a star. Its weapons could destroy a planet. 300 of the finest warships in the galaxy protected it at all times. ready to face any threat. The Supreme Command lived there, 12 beings from 12 species who ruled the known galaxy. They had gathered in the Grand Council chamber to watch the final death of the human menace. Victory wine flowed freely. Celebrations had already begun. High Admiral Kethros of the Volcari stood before the council, his chest swelling with pride. "The human ship is finished," he announced. "Our fleet at the Shroud Nebula dealt it a crippling blow. It can barely move. It has almost no weapons left, and our forces here will destroy it long before it reaches the Citadel." Elder Selinari, the ancient diplomat who had first proposed the extermination of humanity, nodded his approval. "You have done well, Admiral. When this last symbol of human resistance is destroyed, we can finally put this ugly business behind us and return to the proper order of things. The human worlds will be cleansed within the year," Kethros continued. "Those few survivors still hiding in the outer systems will be hunted down. The species called humanity will exist only in our history records as a warning to other aggressive primitives." The council members applauded. They raised their glasses to the Admiral, to each other, to the bright future of a galaxy without humans. None of them noticed a single blip that appeared on the long-range sensors. None of them heard the junior officer who tried to report it, only to be silenced by his superiors who did not want to interrupt the celebration. The Prometheus had arrived. Admiral Kira Vance looked at the Citadel through the cracked view screen of her bridge. The station was huge, a monument to alien arrogance and power. Around it, 300 ships waited in perfect formation, ready to tear her vessel apart. She smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Argus, how many crew members do we have left?" 43, Admiral. 17 are seriously wounded. Combat effectiveness is at 12%. And the special payload? Intact. The drones are ready for deployment. Kira nodded. During the journey, her engineers had worked day and night on a special project. They had taken pieces of the ship's reactor core and built them into thousands of small drones. Each drone carried enough energy to overwhelm a section of the Citadel shields. It was a desperate plan. Most of the drones would be destroyed before they reached their targets. But if even a few got through, they could create a gap in the station's defenses, a gap large enough for the Prometheus to fly through. "All hands," she announced over the ship's comm. "This is the Admiral. We have reached our destination. In a few minutes, we will engage the enemy for the last time. There is no retreat. There is no survival. There is only the mission." She paused, thinking of all they had sacrificed to reach this moment. "We have come a long way together. We have lost friends, family, everything that mattered to us. The Confederation took it all. But they could not take our spirit. They could not break our will. And now, we are going to show them what that will can do. When the histories are written, they will remember this day. They will remember that when humanity was pushed to the edge of extinction, we did not beg for mercy. We did not surrender. We flew straight into the heart of our enemy, and we burned bright enough to light the galaxy. It has been an honor serving with you all. Now let's finish this." The Prometheus moved forward. The 300 ships of the Citadel's defense fleet opened fire. The space between them became a wall of destruction. Weapons fire so thick that nothing should have been able to pass through it. Kira watched it come. She did not flinch. Launch the drones. Thousands of small objects burst from the Prometheus, spreading out in all directions. The defense grid targeted them, destroying them by the hundreds. But there were too many, moving too fast, coming from too many angles. Some got through. They hit the Citadel's shields like small suns. The energy they carried was not enough to destroy the shields, but it was enough to overload them. For 3 precious seconds, a section of the station's protection flickered and failed. 3 seconds was enough. "All power to engines," Kira ordered. "Take us through." The Prometheus shot forward. The defense fleet tried to track it, but the ship was moving faster than they expected, faster than any ship should have been able to move. It threaded through the gap in the shields, scraping past the station's outer ring, and crashed into the Citadel's hull. The impact was tremendous. The entire station shook. Alarms screamed throughout its corridors. The Supreme Command in their comfortable chamber felt the floor jump beneath their feet. What was that? Elder Selinary demanded. An officer ran into the room, his face pale with terror. The human ship. It breached the shields. It hit us. It's embedded in the station's outer ring. High Admiral Kethros could not believe what he was hearing. That's impossible. No ship could survive that impact. They survived, sir. Our sensors show. They're deploying soldiers. The humans are boarding the station. In the wreckage of the Prometheus, the survivors pulled themselves from the ruins. Most of them were wounded. All of them were dying, their bodies flooded with radiation from the damaged reactor. They had hours at most. Admiral Vance was among the first to stand. Her uniform was burned. Her skin was blistered. She could feel her bones grinding where they had broken. None of it mattered. Move out, she ordered. We have a council to visit. 43 humans began fighting their way through the most protected station in the galaxy. The Citadel's defenders were not prepared for what they faced. They had trained to fight normal enemies, soldiers who would retreat when wounded, who would surrender when outmatched. The humans did neither. Sergeant Major Rodriguez led the first assault team through a security checkpoint. The guards outnumbered his team 3-1. They had better weapons, better armor, the better positioning. It did not matter. Rodriguez took a plasma bolt to the chest and kept moving. He reached the first guard and broke the alien's neck with his bare hands. The others fell back in terror, unable to understand how a wounded creature could be so fast, so strong, so completely without fear. The humans pushed forward, leaving a trail of bodies behind them. They did not stop to treat their wounds. They did not pause to rest. They moved with terrible purpose, following the station's corridors toward the heart of the Citadel. In the Grand Council chamber, the Supreme Command listened to the reports of slaughter. One by one, their defense lines fell. Security teams sent to stop the humans simply vanished. The station's internal weapons could not target the intruders without risking damage to critical systems. How is this possible? One of the council members asked, his voice shaking. There are only a few dozen of them. We have thousands of soldiers. You don't understand, Commander Thelverus said quietly. She had come to the chamber to deliver a final warning. This is what they evolved for. Survival. Combat. Never giving up, no matter the odds. On their homeworld, everything tries to kill them from the moment they are born. They learn to fight back. They learn to never stop fighting. She looked at the High Admiral, who stood frozen with disbelief. We didn't defeat them. We just gave them a target for their rage. The doors of the chamber shuddered as something hit them from outside. Then again, and again, the Supreme Command looked at each other in fear. For the first time in their long lives, they understood what it meant to be prey. The doors burst open. Admiral Kira Vance walked through, followed by the 11 soldiers who had survived the assault. They were covered in blood, some of it their own, most of it not. They moved like machines, their eyes empty, their faces blank. They had come so far. And now, finally, they had arrived. Kira looked at the council members, studying their faces, matching them to the file she had memorized. These were the beings who had ordered the death of her species. These were the creatures who had watched her daughter burn. "Hello," she said. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. "We need to talk about what happens next." The Supreme Command of the Galactic Confederation stood frozen in their grand chamber. 12 beings of 12 species, the most powerful creatures in the known galaxy, stared at the human woman who had just walked through their doors. She was dying. They could see it clearly. Radiation burns covered her skin. Her left arm hung broken at her side. Blood dripped from wounds that should have killed her hours ago, but she was still standing, and the weapon in her hand was still pointed at them. Admiral Kira Vance studied the council members one by one. She recognized each face from the file she had memorized during the long journey. The Velkari High Admiral, Kethros, who had ordered the bombing of New Eden. Elder Selinary, the ancient diplomat who had convinced the others that humans must be destroyed. Representative Morval of the Teth Rani, who had laughed when the death toll passed 1 billion. She remembered them all. And she would make them remember her. "You should not be here," Kethros said. His voice tried to be commanding, but fear cracked through it. "You should be dead. Your ship was destroyed. Your species is finished." "And yet," Kira replied, "here I am." Elder Selinary stepped forward, his ancient body moving slowly but with dignity. He had lived for 3,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He believed he understood the universe and its patterns. "This changes nothing," he said. "Even if you kill us all, the Confederation will continue. Our fleets will hunt down every last human. You have delayed the inevitable, nothing more." Kira laughed. It was a broken sound, filled with pain and dark humor. "You still don't understand," she said. "You really don't understand." She reached for her wrist with her good hand and activated a display. A holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a tactical map of the galaxy. Red dots were spreading across it like drops of blood, moving outward from human space in all directions. 18 hours ago, while you watched us fight through your nebula, while you celebrated your victory, the human fleet launched. Every ship we have left, every soldier who could still hold a weapon. Not here, to Aetheris. We knew we could never win that fight. She pointed at the red dots on the map. They're going to your homeworlds. Every species that voted for our extinction. Every world that cheered when our children burned. The council members stared at the display in horror. The red dots were everywhere, spreading through Confederation space like a plague. Some had already reached their destinations. Small symbols appeared next to several planets, indicating that the human fleet had arrived. Velkar Prime, Kira read calmly. Selinary homeworld. Tethran core systems. Your military was here, protecting you, chasing us. There was nothing left to defend your homes. Kethros' ash-gray skin turned pale. You're lying. Our homeworlds have defense systems, orbital stations, planetary shields. They did, Kira agreed. Past tense. The first strikes happened 12 hours ago. Your defenses are burning. Your cities are being evacuated. And your fleets are too far away to help. She watched their faces as the truth sank in. Fear, disbelief, rage, despair. She had imagined this moment so many times during the journey. Now that it was here, she felt nothing but cold satisfaction. You made a mistake, she continued. You thought that if you killed enough of us, we would give up. You thought we were like the other species you've conquered, that we would break under pressure. She shook her head slowly. We don't break. We never have. Our world tried to kill us for millions of years, and we conquered it. You tried to wipe us out, and look what happened. Elder Selinary spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. This is madness. You're condemning your own species to destruction. Even if you damage our worlds, we will rebuild. We will come back stronger. And we will hunt down every last one of you. Maybe, Kira admitted. But I don't think so. You see, we're not trying to destroy you. We're trying to teach you something. She stepped closer to the council, her weapon never wavering. We're teaching you that humans don't forget. We're teaching you that when you hurt us, We hurt you back harder. We're teaching you that no matter how many of us you kill, no matter how much you think you've won, we will find a way to make you pay." She gestured at the map, at the red dots spreading across the galaxy. "Right now, your people are learning that lesson. They're watching their cities burn, just like we watched ours. They're fleeing from enemies they thought they had defeated, just like we did. And they're going to remember this feeling for the rest of their lives." Kethru stepped forward, his hand reaching for a weapon on his belt. One of Kira's soldiers shot him before he could move another step. The High Admiral fell to the floor, dead before he hit the ground. The remaining council members did not move. "You could have negotiated," Elder Selinari said. His voice was empty now. All his ancient wisdom turned to dust. "When the war started, you could have surrendered. You could have accepted our terms. Why did you choose this?" Kira thought about the question. She thought about Maria, about her husband, about the billions who had died screaming under alien weapons. She thought about the choice they had been given, slavery or death. "Because you forgot what we are," she said finally. "We're Deathworlders. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day of our existence. We learned to fight, to survive, to never give up no matter how bad things got. And we learned something else too." She raised her weapon and pointed it at Elder Selinari's head. "We learned that mercy is a choice, and you showed us none." The shot echoed through the chamber. One by one, the remaining council members fell. Some begged for their lives. Some tried to fight. Some simply stood in silence, accepting the end they had brought upon themselves. When it was over, Kira stood alone in the chamber, surrounded by the bodies of those who had tried to destroy her species. The station shook around her as human ships arrived to secure the citadel. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Somewhere in the distance, the last of the Confederation's defenders were being overwhelmed. She walked to the observation window and looked out at the stars. The galaxy stretched before her, vast and cold and indifferent. Humanity had been a small part of it, a young species just beginning to find its place among the stars. Now, they were something else, something the galaxy would never forget. "Argus," she said quietly. Her voice was weak now. The radiation was catching up to her. She had minutes left at most. "Status of the fleet?" The AI's voice came through her communicator, faint but clear. "Human forces have secured the citadel. The Confederation's command structure has been eliminated. Enemy fleets are in retreat across all sectors. Preliminary reports indicate significant damage to enemy homeworlds, but civilian casualties are being minimized per your orders." Kira nodded slowly. Even now, even after everything, she had not wanted to become the monsters they had fought. The attacks on the alien homeworlds were targeted, focused on military installations and government centers. The humans were not there to commit genocide. They were there to prove a point. "What about the mission?" she asked. "Is it complete?" "Yes, Admiral. The Supreme Command has been neutralized. The Prometheus mission is complete." Kira smiled. It was a tired smile, worn and broken, but real. She had done what she set out to do. She had made them pay for what they did to humanity. And she had given her species a chance to survive. "Send a message to the fleet," she said. "Tell them the war is over. It's time to start rebuilding." She walked back to the bodies of the council and sat down among them. Her strength was failing now. The fire that had kept her going was finally burning out. But she did not regret anything. Every choice, every sacrifice, every moment of pain had led to this. She thought about Maria one last time. Her daughter had believed in peace and diplomacy, in finding common ground with other species. Maybe someday humanity could believe in those things again. Maybe someday they could look at the stars without seeing enemies. But that day was not today. Today was for remembering. Today was for making sure the galaxy understood that humans would never be victims again. Kira closed her eyes and let the darkness take her. The Prometheus mission was over. Its crew had given everything, their lives and their futures, to strike back against those who had tried to destroy them. They had flown into the heart of the enemy, faced impossible odds, and won a victory that would change the galaxy forever. In the years that followed, the story of the Prometheus spread across the stars. Other species heard about the ship that would not stop, the crew that would not die, the humans who had turned certain defeat into impossible victory. Some feared the story. Some admired it. All of them remembered it. And on the restored human worlds, where cities were being rebuilt, and children were being born, and life was beginning again, people told this story to each generation. They spoke of Admiral Kira Vance and her crew, of the sacrifice they made, and the message they sent to the universe. Never again would anyone think that humanity could be destroyed. Never again would anyone believe that Deathworlders could be broken. And never again would anyone forget the simple truth that Kira had demonstrated with her final mission. Humans do not go quietly into the dark. They go with fire and fury, with rage and righteousness, with the unstoppable determination of a species that learned to survive against all odds. And they show no mercy to those who show them none.